Chapter 106, Wife, Lover, and the Weak. Fang Hao squatted outside the house under the shade of trees, smoking. His inner emotions were calm yet perplexed. Just now, after acupuncture for the three elderly individuals, with Han Yun's silent approval, Fang Hao accepted their remuneration, which amounted to several thousand yuan. In just one morning, he earned more in consultation fees than working in a hospital. With this income, he could consider opening his own clinic. However, Fang Hao didn't believe that running a clinic would bring in more money. After all, there were clinics everywhere, and they couldn't compete with large hospitals for serious medical cases. In large hospitals, if a specialist went out for private consultations, like he did, they could access influential patients. The elite also trusted renowned hospitals and their specialists. Without Lu Yu's recommendation and his experiences at the Provincial People's Hospital, would Han Yun have believed in Fang Hao's abilities? If he claimed to run a small clinic, would Han Yun have allowed him to treat her? Probably not. Fang Hao dismissed the idea of opening a clinic. It might bring in money, but the scope was too small. He needed to establish himself at the Provincial People's Hospital and become its most prominent doctor. Tianjifeng? That jerk might be a resident there. To find out and seek revenge, Fang Hao needed to build some connections. Perhaps these elderly individuals were the contacts he could develop at the moment. Fang Hao refused to believe that nobody could cure that jerk. He would buy a house in Tianjifeng as well. Su-ro, you and your lover think I'm a fool, a country bumpkin destined to be inferior. Well, I'll prove you wrong. I'll surpass both of you. Su-ro, if your lover can live in Tianjifeng, so can I. Fang Hao set an almost impossible goal for himself. It gave him a firm objective to strive for, preventing him from losing himself in hatred. This goal also fueled his determination. Otherwise, he might end up wielding a knife against the adulterer in blind rage. To buy a house in Tianjifeng, he would need 100 million yuan. Earning 100 million seemed extremely difficult, but it was still easier than enduring the humiliation of being cheated on without seeking revenge. What I can do, Fang Hao can do better than anyone else. After treating Han Yun, it was close to noon. Fang Hao packed up his things and left. His relationship with Han Yun was strictly that of a doctor and a patient. Even if there were more treatments in the afternoon, he couldn't stay here for lunch and rest. Or perhaps, he wasn't qualified to do so. However, after leaving, the beautiful nurse, Xiaoyang, was waiting for him halfway. She invited him to lunch, and after some consideration, Fang Hao agreed. This aligned with his plan. Xiaoyang was very youthful and attractive. She had been here for only a month and had noticed Fang Hao when he saved Old Chen from a stroke. She seized the opportunity when Fang Hao came to treat Han Yun. The recuperation center had a canteen, not open to the public. Only the elderly residents and staff with specific cards could use it. The food was excellent, especially for the elderly residents, including seafood and delicacies like bird's nest and shark fin. After the meal, Xiaoyang's face was quite flushed. This girl is so innocent. Fang Hao felt that if he put in a bit more effort, he could win over Xiaoyang. However, he considered his purpose here, treating Han Yun. What would Han Yun think if he messed around with the female caregivers? Perhaps she would turn a blind eye, but after the treatment, she might treat him as unreliable. Furthermore, if Han Yun told her mother and the others, it could lead to trouble. Ultimately, Fang Hao wasn't someone who lacked women, especially recently. Despite his wife Su-ro's affair, she was still the #1 beauty in Jiangdong City. Being with such a beautiful woman every day made him immune to the allure of other women. Fang Hao, a man of few words, after finishing the meal, asked Xiaoyang if there was a reading room here. Learning that there was, open for 20 hours a day, he asked her to lead the way. Naturally, the recuperation center had its share of cultured individuals, including art rooms and chess rooms. There was a small library with a decent collection, even some medical books. Next to the library was the information room. Fang Hao whispered, "Can you enter the information room?" Xiaoyang asked back, "Do you want to go to the information room?" Fang Hao replied, "I've been working on a paper on the rehabilitation treatment of the elderly. If I could access information like yours, I could gather some data. Do you have the authorization?" "Well, no, only the leaders and our therapy group leader can access this information. Last time, Director Lu Yu asked our group leader, but they didn't agree." "Oh, that's a pity." Fang Hao looked disappointed. Xiaoyang thought for a moment, bit her lip, and said, "I'll try to figure something out." Fang Hao said, "What can you do?" Don't do anything against the rules for my sake. If you get fired, it won't be worth it. These data aren't that valuable to me. I won't get fired. Xiao Yang assured him and left, not disturbing Fang Hao's reading. Using someone like this, is it really okay? Fang Hao felt a bit low, but he still chose to proceed because his wife's lover had appeared here. By viewing the data, he might get closer to discovering who the lover was. At present, Fang Hao had a few clues about his wife's lover. Su Rou mentioned that the person was a lustrous old man, implying that he was not young. The information provided by Sun Sini also confirmed that the person was in middle or old age, not someone young. Based on his wife's passionate reactions, it was evident that the lover was not young. The ability to arouse his wife's desires, evident in buying provocative clothing, proved this point. However, the lover couldn't physically conquer his wife, otherwise, she would have left home long ago. Conquering a woman in bed could lead to winning her heart, making her do anything. However, his wife's lover only had the means to captivate her but lacked the ability to physically conquer her. The lover might still be living in Tianjifeng. As for the name Zheng Kaisen, although it sounded fake, there was also a phone number, a piece of evidence. Chapter 107, Wife Won't Come Back. Faculty dormitory at Jiangdong University. After taking a sip of soup, Fen, the mother-in-law, noticed her daughter wasn't eating and asked, Xiao Rou, what's wrong? Isn't this from the hotel you ordered? Does it not suit your taste? The wife replied, no, it's fine. Why are you wearing such a stern face then? What are you thinking about? I'm thinking about Fang Hao. He left the car for me in the morning and hasn't returned. Wasn't he supposed to come for acupuncture for you at noon? Why hasn't he come? Oh, don't worry about that. He went to the recuperation center. He'll come around 4 or 5 o'clock. Oh, the recuperation center? What's he doing there? The wife felt uneasy. She hadn't expected her husband to go to the recuperation center again. Is he still investigating her? Being persistently pursued and questioned by her husband made her feel exhausted. And it was from a very clever husband, making it even more tiresome. He's there to treat someone. His acupuncture skills are not inferior to anyone else's. Who? Don't ask. Hey, just pay more attention to Fang Hao. Don't be fooled by those sweet-talking men outside. None of them can compare to a sincere man like Fang Hao. Mom, I haven't. Humph, you think I'm blind? I can see it clearly. Your thoughts have wandered off. I don't know to what extent you've played around, but I hope you won't be two-faced. If you don't like Fang Hao, just divorce him, part ways amicably. If you care about Fang Hao, cut ties with the others and focus on your life with him. Mom, I haven't. Stubborn. Well, forget it. Your mom is now in a state where she cares but can't do much. After finishing this project and retiring, I'll spend most of my time in the recuperation center. You take care of yourself. Your dad disrespects the old, don't count on him. Mom, you'll get better. I'll make sure Fang Hao treats you well. Stop talking. Let's eat. Over there. In the afternoon, after finishing the treatment for Han Yun, Fang Hao didn't see the beautiful nurse Xiao Yang again. Once he completed the treatment at the recuperation center, he left. This time, he walked quite a distance before catching a cab. By the time he rushed back to Jiangdong University, it was already 5 o'clock. Looking at Fang Hao's acupuncture, his mother-in-law Fen asked, how is Aunt Han today? Much better than before. The paralyzed half of her body has regained some sensation. After another 2 or 3 days of treatment, she should recover. Actually, she still doubts me a bit. After my acupuncture, she also receives acupuncture from others. The prescription I gave her has been reduced by her other doctors. With her long-term illness, she's quite smart. I'm sure she silently agrees. But that's fine. I'll follow the treatment plan. Fang Hao spoke calmly, a doctor who had a very accurate understanding of the patient's condition. Perhaps it's because you look too young. In the hospital, you're just an ordinary outpatient doctor. But precisely because you're so young and have such excellent medical skills, you're even more precious. Don't be disheartened, take it slow. Oh, Mom, your encouragement is so rare. Are you not going to criticize me for being a country bumpkin anymore? Fang Hao grinned. You are a country bumpkin. Do I need to mention it every day? It's written all over your face. Well, that's true. It's an era of judging by appearance. Conceited. Oh, what did you say to your cousin-in-law this morning? How did she react? Oh, she asked me to buy groceries and clean the house. She wants to take your place, be my mother-in-law, and have me serve her. But I disagreed. I only have you as my mother-in-law. I'm only willing to serve you. She wants me to be her son-in-law, dreaming. I only want to be my mother-in-law's son-in-law. Fang Hao shifted the topic and said, if Xiaoro insists on divorcing me, then you'll be my ex-mother-in-law. His mother-in-law responded, Xiaoro? What's her condition? If she truly loves you, she wouldn't leave. Would you still want a divorce? Fang Hao paused, contemplating. His wife's old lover was outstanding, skilled in seducing women. His wife had been with that old lover for at least 4 years, and her heart was still with him. Even on their wedding night, she had betrayed him. Could she return? Such a woman, utterly rotten. What's the point of keeping the marriage? This marriage must end. Fang Hao, a few years ago, you had nothing, but Xiaoro didn't mind. Now that she's wandering in her thoughts, can't you forgive her, or do you despise her now? Mom, I have nothing now. Fang Hao thought to himself, you don't know how rotten your daughter is. You think she chose me without despising me? She used me as a shield because she couldn't expose her relationship with her old lover. It's you, as her mother, who still thinks she's a precious gem. Why am I discussing this with a mother who spoils her daughter? He said, Mom, you shouldn't be thinking about this now. You should focus on your research, finish the project, and then go on vacation to the recuperation center. You haven't given me an answer. Mom, Xiaoro won't come back. I have nothing. What can she get by staying with me? I've been a burden on her for 4 years. Don't you agree? You told me, passion fades, and love grows dim. Mom, Xiaoro is still young. She has the opportunity to pursue someone she truly likes, and I'm not worthy. Oh, let's not talk about this. Fang Hao said leisurely. When a woman cheats, it's not just a physical affair, it's a betrayal from the heart. His mother-in-law fell silent too. After a long while, she said, then, can't you consider the child? The child? One is someone else's seed, and the other is mine. That would be twins. How can I consider it? I don't need to consider someone else's seed. Fang Hao chuckled and said, Mom, I'm fine on my end. Oh, time is running out. Let me make a call to take a few minutes off first. Fang Hao called Lu Jing and didn't mention the heavy topic of marriage. The acupuncture for his mother-in-law would take more than half an hour, and there would be delays on the way after leaving the school gate. So, the time might not be enough. When Fang Hao returned, his mother-in-law said, this job doesn't pay much. Why bother so much? I'll give you $1 million. Don't go to work. Living off someone else? What happens after I finish the $1 million? I still have to work, right? By then, the competition in society will be even fiercer. It's better to persevere now. Although the money isn't much, a few years of hard work won't match even one of your benefits. But I also need to accumulate. Being a doctor is a skilled profession, and a good doctor even more so. If I don't have the skills, I'd be a mediocre doctor, and you wouldn't let me treat you. In his heart, Fang Hao thought, if I take your $1 million, I'll become your son-in-law. I'll be even more unable to wash away the shame. A son-in-law has no say, the wife has the final say. Her affair is just like going out with another man. The one without any standing at home doesn't even dare to let out a fart. Chapter 108, I am director's person. After finishing the treatment for his mother-in-law, Fang Hao hurriedly went to the hospital and surprisingly wasn't late. He couldn't afford to be late now that his welfare rewards were cancelled. Any more tardiness would result in a deduction from his basic salary, essentially giving money to the hospital. Without the disturbance from Meng Yu and others, Fang Hao's emergency department became much quieter. However, at 8 o'clock, he received a call from Dr. Chen in the inpatient department, saying that Sun Sini wanted to see him. He went to Sun Sini's ward and saw that her bruises were fading after a day or two of treatment. Various data indicated that she had started to recover. He said, your recovery is going well. You can be discharged in as early as 7 days, but staying here for another month for recovery is also an option. Focus on your treatment. Can we talk, Fang Hao? Let's talk after you've recovered. I still have outpatient appointments to attend to. Fang Hao knew that Sun Sini's mental state was precarious. He couldn't let this problematic woman become dependent on him, and he wasn't familiar with her either. After leaving, Dr. Chen asked, Dr. Fang, do you know this woman? I heard her private life isn't good, she was even beaten by someone's wife. Dr. Fang, you should keep your distance from her. I know. She's just a colleague from my wife's company, my wife's subordinate to be exact. Other people's private lives have nothing to do with me. I'm just a doctor, doing my duty as a doctor. Fang Hao said and entered the elevator, leaving. Back at the office, with no patients around, Fang Hao opened his documents and continued writing. During the day, the middleman, Jin Xiaojian, contacted him about a 3,000 yuan manuscript. The requirements weren't high, so he took it on. Midway through writing, Lu Jing entered. He paused and asked, "Director, anything?" Lu Jing glanced at him, catching a glimpse of Fang Hao switching the document page back to the medical system. Judging by Fang Hao's swift and skilled movements, Lu Jing sighed. Young people were indeed fast, treating writing papers just like writing essays, while at her age, typing a few hundred words made her feel drowsy. She said, "Your master saw the manuscript I submitted and got jealous. He called me, saying I snatched you away. Hee hee." Fang Hao was momentarily stunned, thinking it might be his master's joke. Considering his master hadn't provided him with data or cases from yesterday until today, and even stopped correcting his papers, it seemed plausible. He said, "Yes, now I am under your management." "That's right, you're under my management. I criticized your master. He made you work, yet couldn't even get you prescription rights. If you were disciplined, he wouldn't be able to support you. So, your master hung up in embarrassment. After so many years of him pressuring me, it feels good to push back." Fang Hao was also happy. Indeed, Lu Jing was more reliable than his master. However, he still remembered his master's kindness. Without his master pushing him to his limits, he wouldn't have discovered his potential. Although he did get a free ride. Midnight, Fang Hao finished work and walked out of the hospital gates. Just as he was about to hail a taxi, he heard someone calling his name from behind. Turning around, he saw his wife approaching in a car. She said, "Honey, get in. Let's go home." Fang Hao got into the car and asked, "Why did you come?" "I came to pick you up." "It's late at night, no need for you to come." "I want to. Jai and Tian are waiting at home. Originally, they said they would wait until you came back before going to sleep, but they couldn't hold on and went to bed. They want to see you, but they'll have to wait until tomorrow morning now." These two little troublemakers. Fang Hao's heart melted, especially when he saw them upon arriving home. He couldn't resist giving them a couple of kisses. This time, his wife brought the children from his mother-in-law's villa to their home, and they were staying in their own bedroom. This arrangement suited Fang Hao's preferences. After preparing a simple meal, Fang Hao cleaned up and went to bed. His wife, feeling affectionate, took the initiative, and the two engaged in an intimate encounter. Exhausted, they fell asleep in each other's arms. The next day, Fang Hao vaguely felt someone kissing both sides of his face. Opening his eyes, he saw his daughter and son approaching, pecking his face like little chicks eating grains. Listening to the children calling him Dad on both sides, he felt his heart melting. He got up, washed, and saw that his wife had already prepared breakfast. She was dressed in casual home clothes, wearing an apron and slippers. She looked so homely. "Oh, Su-ro, if only you hadn't cheated. How good would that be?" Fang Hao's heart was shadowed, but he maintained a smile on his face. Later, his wife took the children to kindergarten, and when she returned, she came to the study, nestling on Fang Hao's thighs. "Why haven't you gone to the office yet? Don't be late." "I took leave. During this time, I want to accompany you and my mom." His wife noticed Fang Hao opening another QQ chat window and even exiting that QQ. It made her wonder. Was it her husband's affair, or was he conspiring with someone to investigate her affair? Every time she saw her husband's actions, she felt like he was watching her, ready to expose her relationship with that person at any moment. "I don't need you to accompany me. Spend more time with my mom. Keep an eye on her and make sure she doesn't overwork herself. It would be best if you could take her for a checkup. You go rest for a while, I'll work on my paper. I have to go out later. I'm here with you. I'll watch you write. With you here, I'm already distracted. My beautiful and charming wife, how can I concentrate on writing? Smooth talker, but I like it." His wife kissed his forehead and left. Fang Hao seized the time to finish the paper he hadn't completed the night before. Then he contacted Lu Yu and rushed to the hospital. "Fang Hao, where's your car?" Lu Yu saw Fang Hao coming by taxi and couldn't help but ask. "That car was never mine, it belonged to my father-in-law. He took it back." "Director, let's take your car this time." I don't know how to drive." Then let's take a taxi. Fang Hao looked at Liu strangely. In this day and age, someone who didn't know how to drive was quite rare. Take a taxi there, what about coming back? Isn't Zhang Jun's car still at the hospital? Ask Lu Jing to bring the keys. Liu made a call, and soon Lu Jing arrived. Fang Hao said hurriedly, Director, I'll go get it myself. Lu Jing said to Lu Yu, Fang Hao is my subordinate. Don't think about poaching him. She said to Fang Hao, you better be careful and not get abducted. The keys are with you, go ahead and drive. Zhang Jun won't need it for a while anyway. Chapter 109, The Real Appearance of Yue Xia Huo. In the car, Lu Yu remarked, it seems Lu Jing cares a lot about you. I rarely see her care about anyone. Fang Hao replied, Director Lu doesn't care about me personally, she cares about how I can be of help. Right now, Director Lu and I have a hierarchical relationship, but we also collaborate. We've recently co-authored a few articles, and the next paper is halfway done. Once we get the data in a day or two, we should be able to publish. Papers? Why don't you write a few in gynecology? Otherwise, our gynecology department won't have enough publications. Recently, we need to undergo an examination of academic achievements, and our gynecology department is lacking. I can't expect much from a non-academic director like Li Xiaoxi. Only someone like you, with talent and research perseverance, can produce results. Well, Director Lu, I'm not good at gynecology. Then study it. I've heard about your abilities. Whatever information your mentor provides you, you can turn it into results. Later, I'll give you the material, take a look, and then write a few papers. It doesn't matter if they're homogeneous, I want quantity. Don't worry, I won't treat you unfairly. Fang Hao wanted to give himself a slap. Why mention writing a paper at this time? Now he has another task. But then he thought, if he waits here for a favor from Director Lu, he might be able to use it one day. This society is all about personal connections, isn't it? The influential class, apart from the resources they control, also owes a lot of personal favors to drive others to work for them, right? He reluctantly agreed. At the entrance of the sanatorium, Fang Hao saw a small car stuck there. A long-haired beauty came out and was registering for admission. He didn't pay much attention. He also needed to register to enter. Arriving at Han Yun's residence, Fang Hao found that the beautiful woman who had just registered at the entrance was also present. According to the introduction, her name was Yue Xia Huo, a student from Jiangdong University and the school flower of the art department. Yue Xia Huo. Fang Hao's mind trembled. This name seemed familiar. He suddenly remembered that Yue Xia Huo's name was on the register at the gatekeeper's booth because today there were only the two of them registering. He always thought Yue Xia Huo was his wife's alias, but unexpectedly, there was really such a person. Could it be that his wife didn't come here, and the visitor earlier was this woman? Is it really like this? Fang Hao thought about many things in his heart, but his face remained calm, without any ripples. He didn't have much conversation with Yue Xia Huo and began examining Han Yun, administering acupuncture. During the acupuncture process, Lu Yu and Han Yun chatted casually. Fang Hao went outside for a smoke. Yue Xia Huo also came out and handed Fang Hao a slender lady's cigarette, saying, try a different flavor. Thanks, I'm afraid if I get used to your expensive taste, I won't be able to afford it later, and it'll be uncomfortable. I'll stick to this one. Fang Hao was a bit disdainful. How could a university student like her smoke? Moreover, smoking such expensive ladies' cigarettes. He also noticed that her car was a luxury car. Wait a minute, the car. Fang Hao glanced at the car parked nearby and realized it was the same model as his wife's car. Then he looked again. The woman's hairstyle, body shape, and clothing style were all very similar to his wife's. Could it be just a coincidence? Yue Xia Huo smiled and said, Dr. Fang, if you don't try a different flavor, how do you know it's different? Thanks, but it's unnecessary. Fang Hao refused. At this moment, Meng Yu drove over and rushed towards Yue Xia Huo, saying, Xia Huo, you're really here. Hurry up and write me a piece of calligraphy. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. She turned to Fang Hao with a disgusted look and said, Hey, you, the quality of that cigarette is too poor. Don't smoke and ruin our beauty. Next time, smoke a better one. No money. Fang Hao dismissed it. No money? I'll give you some. I'll buy it for you. Hee hee. Fang Hao ignored her, squatted under the shade of a tree, took out his phone, and played with it while smoking. Silly loser, don't mind him. Meng Yu pulled Zhou Jiejie and walked inside. Zhou Jiejie turned her head to look at Fang Hao and said, "Dr. Fang is really handsome." "What's the use of being handsome? Just a stone in the latrine, smelly and hard." "Look at him, does he look a bit like squatting in a latrine?" "Haha, he really looks a bit like." Fang Hao took a puff of his cigarette, not expecting a message from Xiaoyang asking if he had arrived. After a brief exchange, he headed towards the library. The library was quite crowded with elderly people today, including the 3 seniors Fang Hao had treated yesterday. "Dr. Fang, have lunch here, and then I'll take you to the reference room," said the beautiful nurse Xiaoyang in a hushed voice before walking away. Fang Hao observed the busy caregivers here who had to attend to the elderly residents' needs constantly. It was quite a luxury to enjoy this level of service by spending money. He sighed inwardly, thinking that if he were older and had the means, staying in such a high-quality sanatorium would indeed be quite comfortable. "Fang doctor, why are you here?" Zhou Jiejie appeared in front of Fang Hao, smiling at him. Fang Hao frowned. "Why did this woman show up again?" "I'm here to read." "Oh, they said your medical skills are excellent. Why are you still reading books?" Zhou Jiejie glanced at the medical book in Fang Hao's hands, a substantial volume. She couldn't help but feel a bit overwhelmed. How could he understand such professional works? Fang Hao didn't bother much. "You go about your business." "How come, Dr. Fang? You're so skilled, yet you still read books?" Zhou Jiejie looked at the medical book in Fang Hao's hands, a substantial volume. She couldn't help but feel a bit overwhelmed. How could he understand such professional works? "Go on with your work." Fang Hao didn't want to deal with this woman. Although she was attractive, her hairstyle and clothes were similar to his wife's, and seeing her inevitably made him think of his wife. As for his wife, he felt conflicted and pained. He wanted to divorce her immediately, but divorcing her would lead to a series of chain reactions, forcing him to make careful choices. For now, he had to endure wearing the green hat. "Dr. Fang, do you dislike chatting with me? I don't know you well, there's nothing to chat about." "Let's chat, we'll get to know each other." Fang Hao thought, "Does this woman want to seduce me?" He replied, "I'm married, I have children, and I have a family. I'm not suitable for chatting." "Oh, do you think I want to get into bed with you? If not, there's no need to chat. But even if we chat, it won't change anything. I won't get into bed with you." Fang Hao thought, "Why approach me if you're not trying to seduce me? Is there really such a thing as pure friendship between men and women? I don't believe it. Dr. Fang, you're an interesting person. We'll meet again." Zhou Jiejie chuckled and then left. "No, we won't meet again. Seeing you reminds me of that woman. Why would I want to see you again?" Fang Hao pondered. His wife's infidelity made him view beautiful women, or any women for that matter, with a scrutinizing eye. The more beautiful the woman, the less trustworthy she seemed. Chapter 110, Smarty Pants. After Zhou Jiejie left, Meng Yu arrived. Meng Yu glanced at Fang Hao's medical books and said, "Truly worthy of a PhD candidate, managing to tackle such books." Fang Hao furrowed his brows. Being disturbed like this today and with no focus on reading, he put away his book and left. Meng Yu followed, saying, "Fang Hao, have lunch here, don't run away." "Why?" "Aunt Liu also plans to stay, you have afternoon treatments. Are you planning to go home and come back? Aren't you afraid of wasting time?" "True. I'll stay then." Fang Hao wasn't inflexible. Having lunch with Xiaoyang and staying was the wisest choice. At noon, Zhou Jiejie and Meng Yu stayed, and they had their meal in the sanatorium's cafeteria, in a VIP room. After lunch, Zhou Jiejie and Meng Yu left. Liu went to accompany Han Yun, and Fang Hao said he would go back to reading before meeting Xiaoyang in the document room. The sanatorium had been established for 5 years, accommodating over 1,000 people. However, Fang Hao couldn't read through all of the records, so he selected the time period when Zhou Jiejie visited to review the cases of all the treated patients. Due to time constraints, he couldn't go through them in detail but swiftly scanned through, trying to remember the relevant information. At this moment, he felt grateful for the high demands his mentor had placed on him over the past 4 or 5 years. It allowed him to recall each piece of data, even each symbol. Now, looking at these medical records, everything seemed familiar and even simpler. In these 2 hours at noon, he managed to review most of them. "Xiaoyang, thank you. I owe you a favor." "Finished reading?" Xiaoyang looked at the time. It was time for her to leave as well. "More or less. When you finish writing, let me take a look." Fang Hao left for Han Yun's treatment. At Jiangdong University, Su Ro stayed in her mother's resting room while her mother worked on her project in the lab. However, there was an unexpected visitor, Yue Xia. Yue Xia played a recording of her conversation with Fang Hao. She smiled and said, "Sister Xiao Ro, your husband is quite interesting, very straightforward." Su Ro was displeased, saying, "What are you doing here? You're getting close to my husband, do you want to die? Don't worry, I won't touch Fang Hao. I'm here to help you out. Fang Hao said you were under close scrutiny, so he asked me to help dispel his suspicions. He has checked the ghost houses and sanatoriums, and if he finds out about me, he won't suspect you anymore." Su Ro's gaze sharpened, asking, "Is this his idea?" "Of course. He hasn't seen you in the last few days, but he's been thinking about you. He's worried about you." Yue Xia took out a gift from her backpack. Through the transparent packaging, it was evident that it was a set of lingerie. She handed it to Su Ro, saying, "He said you'd know how to thank him." Su Ro looked at the lingerie but didn't take it, her eyes somewhat lost. She said, "I don't want that kind of life anymore. Tell him I broke up with him. From now on, I only want to be with my husband. I want to be my husband's wife." "Break up?" Yue Xia frowned, asking, "Why?" "I don't know." Su Ro said slowly without explaining further. "Take it, don't waste it. Wear it for your husband, it'll add spice to your relationship." Yue Xia got up and said, "I think you shouldn't rush to the conclusion of breaking up. Rest during this period. When your husband stops investigating you, come find him. He really loves you. My husband is very clever. What if you all? Aren't you afraid of backfiring?" Su Ro said, her eyes showing some pain. Yes, that man loved her, and she loved him, but facing the choice between her husband and that man, she could only choose her husband. Her husband represented home, youth, and the ability to fulfill her desires. Clever? He is clever, managing to read such thick professional books. But it's just bookish knowledge. He's just been reading books to death. He's bright, and you've been discovered by him in these 4 years. Oh, by the way, in these 4 years, he hasn't found out. Why did he suddenly start investigating you? What does he know? I don't know either, but I feel what he knows is enough for him to divorce me. Divorce? Then just divorce. It's more convenient to be with him like this, isn't it? You don't understand. Then rest assured, your husband isn't that clever. This time, we'll help you put out the fire. Next time, I hope to see you at his place. Giggles. Yue Xia left with a smile. Su Ro frowned, her husband staying in the sanatorium for a moment made her uneasy. She and that man had appeared there. She was the prey. Fang Hao was a fierce hunter, currently investigating the traces of the prey. The likelihood of finding the prey was extremely high. It was past 4 o'clock when Su Ro saw her husband again, driving that luxurious Mercedes, making her feel a sense of unfamiliarity and pressure once more. Her husband was handsome, and if she abandoned her dignity and allowed a wealthy woman to support her, life could be quite comfortable. In reality, her husband had strong medical skills, and with the right opportunity, he might achieve great success. His future looked brighter than hers as a financial director. For the first time in many years, she felt inferior to her husband. Lu Yu, also accompanying them, was there to visit Zhou Fen. Su Ro didn't doubt Fang Hao's treatment of Zhou Fen, considering Zhou Fen, a math professor, had health issues due to prolonged sitting and excessive brain use, coupled with her retirement age. It seemed reasonable for her son-in-law to provide treatment. Lu Yu, not understanding acupuncture, had no reason to doubt. On the balcony, Fang Hao said to his wife, "Later, you can take Director Lu back. I need to go to the Chinese medicine hospital." "No problem. I also need to visit the hospital, I'll check on Sun Sunny. She got assaulted, and as her supervisor, I haven't visited her yet." His wife looked at Fang Hao and said she had already investigated. Fang Hao was treating a young man with severe myasthenia gravis at the Chinese medicine hospital. She looked up what myasthenia gravis was and realized its danger, as well as Fang Hao's impressive skills. The more she investigated, the more she discovered that her husband was a hidden gem, making her feel even more uneasy. Despite having such an outstanding husband, the situation seemed like the greatest crisis. How can a capable man allow his wife's betrayal? What should I do? Her heart was bleak but stubborn. Fang Hao said, Sun Sunny brought this upon herself, she doesn't deserve sympathy. However, I also think her husband is despicable. It's not enough to just retaliate against her, we can't let that adulterer off the hook either. Yes, she brought it upon herself. Her heart grew even darker. Judging by her husband's reaction, she wondered what would happen when he actually discovered the person involved. Her husband came from the countryside, and if he got serious, who knows what he might do. It's really difficult.